If you're an active real estate investor and you're looking to do larger deals, you're in the right place. We are going to go and take the conceptual type of stuff that you listen to from other real estate podcasts and bring it down to the tactical, the nitty-gritty, the actual actionable types of things that other real estate investors that went big did to grow their own real estate empire. You're listening to the Go Big Live podcast. I'm your host, Matt Drouin. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the Go Big Live Real Estate Investors podcast. I am your host, Matt Drouin, and I have a very special guest on with me, the Canvassing Queen, trademarked, okay? So don't steal it or else you might get sued. Beth Azor with Azor Advisory Services, a leading commercial real estate advisory and investment firm based in Southeast Florida. With over 30 years of experience in managing, developing, redeveloping, and teaching commercial real estate leasing agents, Beth has dedicated her time to educating and helping investors reduce vacancies and increase occupancy. In addition to her impressive career, Beth is also the host of the Retail Leasing Podcast and author of the Retail Leasing Playbook. She has dedicated her career to guiding budding and established retail real estate agents to conquer the market through her courses and workshops. And as her name suggests, her canvassing workshops are legendary. Beth, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Matt. I'm excited to be here.
So usually how I like to start the show is, I've done some snooping around on you, but I didn't pick up your origin story. So I want to know, you were born and now you're here. What happened in between?
Oh my gosh. Born in Wisconsin, parents, my dad was in real estate, residential, moved us to Florida. I got a job after graduation as a special events coordinator, making a whopping $11,000 a year. So because my parents were in real estate, I got my license when I was 18. So I was doing real estate on the weekends all through college. So when I got my job out of school for the not-for-profit, making 11 grand, I did real estate on the weekends. And after 2 years of working 7 days a week, my executive director called me into her office and she said, your ambition exceeds us. So why don't you go do the real estate thing full-time and just volunteer for us? And so that was very gracious of her. And so I did that and I hated it immediately because I loved working at the Heart Association because it was my passion. And now I'm selling real estate houses, sitting in a trailer, waiting for people to walk in the door. And one weekend we had a temp person that came in to help and said, you should get into commercial. And I said, commercial, gross, that's selling land. That's got to be more boring than this. And she said, no, there's this thing called leasing. And developers build grocery stores and shopping centers surround them, and you lease space to the bagel guy and the nail salon, and then you become their best friend because you help them achieve their American dream. I'm like, sold. Where do I sign up for that? And she said, oh, there's this company in Miami called Terra Nova. They have a training program and trains leasing agents. So I called down there and I said, who's in charge of your training program? And it was a sorority sister of mine from college. So she said, you're hired, just come meet the boss. I was there 18 years. I started in the rookie training department. I ended up being the president. And then in 2004, I started my own company and here I am today.
Oh, excellent. So I looked at your website and it looks like you own some stuff, right?
I do.
So
we all should own some stuff, Matt. We all should own some stuff.
I know I'm a big proponent of that. I've been like evangelical about owning property, owning hard assets as a way to diversify your portfolio. I mean, I'm, living example of it. I mean, I like stuff that's like, biblical in nature. I mean, it's like, the real estate game is an old business. And that's the reason why I like it, is because it stood the test of time. But let's back up a little bit and talk about how you landed your first deal. Like, what were you thinking? You were a broker at the time. Like, who gave you permission to buy a property?
Well, so I was with this company that I was, had grown through for 18 years, and he was doing a bunch of LP deals, and he had come to me and said, hey, we're going to buy this shopping center. Do you want to put some money in? The minimum is 25,000. I'm like, I don't have 25,000. I think I was about 28 at the time, and I'd been there 2 years. And not only did I not have the money, I thought, investing in shopping center, like, I have my 401k, like I've maxed out on that. And then that deal was very successful. And 2 years later, he came to me again and said, hey, we're buying another shopping center. Do you want in? And this time I wasn't opposed to investing. I still didn't have any money. And I said, I don't have any money. And he's like, you're an idiot. And I was probably making at the time, 30 years old, close to 100,000. I was married at the time. He was probably making that. And it was kind of shameful that we didn't have the money. And so I got passed by again, and another successful deal. And then the third time he comes into my office and he goes, okay, we're looking at buying this center. You're going to be the leasing agent. You definitely need to be in this one. And I'm looking at him, he goes, do not tell me you don't have any money. So now I'm 32. I've been there 6 years. I'm probably making 100 and a quarter. My spouse is making that. There's no excuse. But we didn't have any money. I said, well, we have season tickets to the Miami Dolphins and the Florida State Seminoles. And we went to Hawaii and I have a Jaguar and all these excuses, but my 401k is maxed out. And we have stocks. And he was shaking his head and he took me down to the local bank. And he co-signed a note for 40,000. The minimum was 50. My parents gave us 10. He co-signed a note for 40. He said on one condition, that every commission check you get from this point forward, you put 20% off the top in an investment account. And if I find out that you don't do it, I'm going to call the loan. So we said, okay, done. So we did that. We got in the deal, and I did the 20% religiously for the rest of my time there. By the time I left there, I was in 7 deals as an LP. And then I went out on my own. My son was 4. I was a single mom. I couldn't be the president of a big company anymore. It was a huge undertaking, 60, 80 hours a week. So I said, okay, I'm going to leave and start my own thing and start buying deals on my own account as a GP. And that was kind of what when you talk about what was your first deal, my first deal was when I, signed on the mortgage and had to raise family and friends money. And, and my first deal was full of kind of crazy stories and things that happened. So I can share some of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's talk about that first deal where you were a GP and you were kind of in charge of raising the money, securing the bank financing, the whole asset management and all that stuff. Like, let's kind of start that from day one. I mean, how did you find this deal for sale?
So we leased for a third party client when I was with the firm, a shopping center with a bunch of out parcels. And one of the out parcels was a piece of land. And the client called and said, we just got this land back. Can you guys flip it, sell it to someone? And we put up a sign, and the number we quoted got outbid by 30 or 40%. And so we were like, what? And so there was a lot next door that was bigger and they wanted less. And I said, we need to buy that lot. And my boss at the time, my partner, said, oh, that's too small for us. So fast forward 3 months, I leave the company. It's in kind of not my neighborhood, but it's in my market where I live. And I drive by the lot and there's the sale sign still on it. And I'm like, oh, I got to call on this. And it was 1.2 million for 1.77 acres. And we had sold the deal next door for $1 million. No, yeah, 1 acre for 1.2 million to Applebee's. So I knew it was a huge opportunity. So I called my girlfriends. I have 3 best girlfriends in the industry. They rep, one of them reps Home Depot and Costco, one of them reps Walgreens, and one of them reps TJ Maxx. And I bring them to this little Cuban restaurant that has a window overlooking this plot of land. I go, why are we in this, dive Cuban restaurant? I said, you see out that window? We're going to buy that. And like, no, we're not. I go, yes, we are. And they have all these excuses, fear. I said, well, screw y'all, I love you, but I'm buying it. So 1.2, I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to get 10 friends at 100 grand, or, or I'm going to get a loan. And so I don't know how to put together the private placement memorandum. I have no idea how to, I know about the market. I know that we're going to do 2 ground leases. I know that the deal is fabulous as far as what they want for it, but I don't know how to put together the package that you send to the family and friends. So I paid someone $5,000 to do that. So he comes on board. I give him all of the specifics. He does the numbers that the little Argus run. And I go to get a loan, and I have 2 offers, and then the appraiser comes in and doesn't hit the 1.2 value because he didn't know about the Applebee's, even though I gave him the information. He thought that, so the first bank says, we can't lend you the money because the appraisal didn't come in. And I'm like, what do you appraisal didn't come? So I ended up scrambling. I got another loan. I got an extension from the seller because this happened, because I called my girlfriend. I'm like, oh my God, I have to go hard next week. She was just calling, it's easier for you to get a 30-day extension, for them to give you a 30-day extension to start all over with someone else. Just explain what happened. I'm like, okay. So I explained what happened. They gave me, like, I think a 30 or 45-day extension. I was able to release all of the other contingencies. I'm good with everything else. I just need to get my loan. So I think we got a loan for $600,000 from the bank. The new appraisal came in fine. And this was, this is when you can't talk to the appraiser. You have to be, it was so crazy where you couldn't talk to the appraisals because of all of the craziness that went on. So we end up, I close on the property. I send out the family and friends OM, and I raised the money very quickly. It was awesome. So now I'm off to the races, and we close and I start leasing it. And I have 2 ground leases. I think they were at, one was at 80 and one was at 90. So, 170 on a 1-2 deal, piece of land, right? We're going to do 2 ground leases. Awesome. Well, as I'm negotiating the ground leases with these two food and beverage operators, I get a phone call from Walgreens, and it's a guy I know. And I'm like, why are you calling me? And he goes, I'm calling you about your deal. I'm like, no, you're not. He goes, yes, I am. I'm like, it's not on the hard corner at the light. And he goes, I know, but there's nothing available in the area. We really want to be there. And I'm like, oh my God. I hang up, I call my girlfriend, who is now, those 3 women, by the way, all came in the deal, of course. Once they saw other people signing up, guys, they all came in the deal. And I called her up and I said, the guy in your office that does the Walgreens is calling me about our deal. She's like, what? She hangs up. So she comes back, she goes, yeah, it's real. They really want it. So now I'm, put these 2 food and beverage on hold. Now I'm, negotiating with Walgreens for a ground lease. And when we did the due diligence, there were parcels in the area. There was a bank, there was McDonald's, there was gas, that you couldn't do those uses. No bank, no burgers, no gas. So right on my leasing sign, I say, no burgers, no gas. No, like, don't call me if you're gas, burgers, or bank. So while we're knee deep in the negotiations with Walgreens, and I wake up in a hot sweat, cold sweat, thinking, why didn't the grocery store have an exclusive on pharmacy? That's weird. And I get up, this is way before you had stuff on Dropbox. And I call my girlfriend, I'm like, who went through all the documents with me. I said, don't you think it's weird the grocery store didn't have an exclusive on pharmacy? She goes, oh, they for sure did. So I ran to the office, looking in the lease. I'm like, oh my God, there's an exclusive on pharmacy. So now, lesson number 1 from the canvassing queen. I've been leasing for, at this point, 20 years. How did I miss that? And I just think we saw it, but we knew that at the time, no groceries would go off corner at the light. So we just discounted it because we were very specific about no gas, no burgers, no banks. So I had to call Walgreens and say, I'm so sorry. You can't come here. And they're like, well, did you call the grocery store? I'm like, I called them. They said not. So back I am leasing to the 2 food and beverage, but Walgreens keeps calling. They keep calling. So at one point I called the grocery. I said, well, for $1 million, would you do it? And the grocery said, let me get back to you. And they called me back and they said, we would do it for $1 million. So then I called Walgreens. I said, okay, for $1 million, they'll do it. I'll put 300, you put in 700, and let's make this happen. And they said, okay. So again, putting the food and beverage on hold, we go back to Walgreens. But then I find out from my attorney who did the title work, right, that said, no, you have to get all 9 other people on the planned unit development. You have to get Lowe's to release the exclusive. You have to get Applebee's. There were 9 units of, representatives I had to get releases from.
Oh, dear God.
My attorney said, just give it up. You're never going to get it. But I got it. I got them from all 9. And I only had to pay the gas station a little bit and a Starbucks investor a little bit. So I got that. then more things happened, but I know we're on a time crunch. So do you want to hear the other things that happened, or do you want me to stop?
Well, one thing that's intimidating to people that are looking to swim upstream into larger commercial deals is the capital raising part of things, right? So you had to raise $600,000. Did you raise this mostly from friends and family?
Yes.
So how did that conversation go? How did you strike up that conversation? Was it awkward for you? Can you kind of get me into the feels of that moment?
So it wasn't awkward because I had a really great reputation on leasing. I knew I had a great reputation where when that girl leases a property, she takes the rents from X to Y. Mm-hmm. So I had that reputation in town, in the market. So I reached out to people that knew me and my reputation for being able to raise rents in a market. So neighboring property owners that benefited from me we would buy a property like the one that he co-signed the note. When we bought it, it was $18. When I left the company, we were at 50. The property owners around that property, I called and said, hey, I'm buying a deal. We sold the neighboring lot to Applebee's for X. It's a great deal. I think I can lease. And I was very conservative in my leasing numbers. So it wasn't awkward because I had a good reputation. And I was not happy with my three best friends who absolutely could afford to be the first three. But again, women, especially, this was in 2005, 2006, it's hard. There's only 3% of all investors are women today. Back then, it was probably half of 1%. So the fact that I couldn't say, and I have the person who represents Home Depot and Costco, the person who, I couldn't even say that. But I went out and people they knew I was honest, that I had integrity. Your reputation follows you. So I had a couple people at 100, a lot at 50. A lot of people put 50 grand into it. And, Matt, the deal always speaks for itself. Mm-hmm. If you have a good deal, money is not hard to find.
Yeah. So how did those conversations go in terms of did you call them up on the phone? Did you, hey, I got to talk to you something, and let's get together for coffee? Did you bring them back to the Cuban restaurant? Every single one of them? How'd that go?
No, I got this fancy package I spent $5,000 for, and I put a list together of 20 people and I sent it out. And I said, I'm buying this deal. Do you want to, and then I think they called me or I called them, and they said, wow, this looks like a great deal. I said, yeah, how much money do you want to put in? And they go, what are you looking for? I said, well, the minimum is 50. And they said, okay, we'll do 50 or we'll do 100. And we raised it pretty fast.
So how did you structure the offering? Like, did they get in terms of preferred rate of return? Like, how did you float the debt service? Because you had a bank loan on this thing.
I did.
Yeah.
We'll cut to the end. We made 299% on our money. Mm-hmm. So, and that was after we paid the loan. So, I raised more than the 1.2. I think I raised 800,000 and got the loan for 6. So I think I raised 1.4. That carried it for the year that we were in the negotiations with all of those tenants. Yep. And then the Walgreens developer who was building the Walgreens came knocking on the door and said, we don't want to just build the Walgreens for a fee. We want to own the deal. And I said, I called like two of my partners. I go, we don't want to sell a Walgreens ground lease, right? That's like the A+++ in town. And they said, well, for the right number, we should just throw out a crazy number. And I think at the time I threw out a 5 cap, which was at the time Walgreens were going at probably 6. So, and they said, yes, we'll do it. And so the developer for the Walgreens bought it and we flipped it within 18 months. So that's how that worked. And then I didn't know what 1031 exchanges were. So everyone got their money. We all paid taxes. And 6 months later, we found another shopping center, this time a multi-tenant shopping center. And I call all those people went into the next deal. So if you have a good first deal, all those people, and they brought friends to the next deal. They're like, we made a lot of money from her, let's get into her next deal.
Yeah, that's like, it's so strange how things happen because like, a lot of the people that are even my students are like, how many, you must have a database of 100 to 200 investors you do these deals with and that sort of thing. I'm like, no, I've been still doing the same deals with the same investors from day one. Because like after that, you do that first deal, you have a track record. It's just so much, and you learn things along the way in terms of the mistakes you make and that sort of thing. You just get better over time, better at projecting. So that sometimes baffles people that like, that they need to have, an army of investors to partner with them.
Yeah, I'm buying a deal right now and I'm raising 3.2 million and we sent it out, but I've had a women's investment conference. We just finished our third one because I'm really pushing women to invest. So we sent it out to 200 people because I'm not getting a loan. I'm going to buy it with cash at 3.2. It's 2.6 and I'm raising another 6 and 600. And we sent it out about a week ago Monday, and we've raised 2.8 of the 3.2. And we sent it out to about 200 people. I would say that 50 are my tried and true that have been in like all of my deals, that any deal that I've raised, they've been in, and the rest are all new ones and the minimum's 25 because I'm trying to get women to invest.
Yeah, absolutely. That is awesome.
But, people would, I'm sure people come up to you and say, I want to get in your next deal. I have a thing, Evernote on my phone. And when someone says, I want to get into your next deal, if I like them and I don't think they're high maintenance, I will write their name down because I have, luckily in all the years that I've been investing on my own as a GP since 2004, I've only had one partner that I happily bought out because it was just, this person was too high maintenance. But when people say, I love what you're doing, I'd love to participate, I just put their name on the list. And then, except for this deal, the last deal I bought was in 2016. I'm not a velocity buyer. I'm a buyer once every 5 years because I usually buy deals and fix them up. It takes a long time. So I'm not a 5 deal a year girl.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, getting back to this first one, I mean, a lot of people think that development is about, bulldozers and, laying pipe and, cement block and all that stuff. I mean, this didn't require any of that. It was basically just the sweat off your brow and your own work. I mean, am I characterizing that right? And you created all that value?
Yes. Yeah. We, when the Walgreens developer had it under contract and they're getting ready to, they pulled the title, they called and said, we've got a problem. I go, well, what's that? He goes, the utilities company put their transformer not in the easement right away, the utility right away, they put it on your property. When I did my title, that didn't come up. And I'm like, okay, they go, you need to move it. We're not going to close until you move it. So I go, okay, no problem. Call the utility company. They go, that will be 6 months. I'm like, what? Wow. I'm closing in a month. You need to move it now. Oh no, we don't move like that. I went and sat in the guy's office with cupcakes all day, 8 hours. And he came in at the end of the day and he goes, why are you here? And why have you been sitting here all day? I go, I've been wanting to give you these. And oh, by the way, I have this property and I have it under contract for, 2,700,000, whatever it was. And I said, and if I can't close because of your utility transformer that's on my property instead of the utility easement, we're going to have a problem. They had a crew out there the next week. Wow. But when they went to redo the survey, they didn't move it far enough. It was still on the property by a smidgen. And I called the buyers and I said, you got to close. Like you go solve this problem. I got them, and they did, they closed.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, we have about 5 minutes left in the actual interview part of the show. I wanted to ask you, your circle of competence is leasing and lease up and canvassing. Some people that are afraid of, let's say, like not commercial multifamily, but commercial from the standpoint of retail and office and all that stuff, have to depend upon brokers to lease their spaces up. And the biggest fear out there, and my fear, because we self-lease a lot of our stuff and we have a lot of office product that is like, smaller office. We're talking about like a single executive office. And then any from that up to 10,000 square feet, let's say. our biggest fear is that, we see a lot of brokers just kind of like put it up on LoopNet, put it up on Crexy. When they have lunch with another broker, they mention they have the space available. What's your take on, on what happens out there in the brokerage community, and how a property owner can find a broker that's really going to work their deal and actually do that canvassing? Because I don't see a lot of people doing that in our market.
Yeah, I was in Cleveland last week and canvassed for 3 days, and the last door I knocked on, 4:45 on Thursday night, I walk into this executive suite, 6,000 square feet. And when I walked in, and it was a CEO who happened to have been in town, he goes, I walked into his office, people do this? I go, no, only me. People go door to door looking for office space users. I think the best way to find that person, it's hard, because I think you make phone calls to every leasing sign you see around your property, and you see if any of them call you back. That's first and foremost, because I made probably 20 phone calls last week, and I got 2 brokers to call me back.
Wow.
And they didn't know. I just said, I'm interested in talking to you about your office building. So they didn't know if I was a prospect, if I just was another broker. They had no idea. So it's super hard. And what I tell people who call me asking me this all the time is, I say, you can do it. I said, if you go do it I just did it 3 days for this. There's an office building. They've got 5,000 to 40,000 square feet. I did it 3 days. That last guy that said, people do this, I spent 15 minutes with him. He goes, when can I see the space? He saw the space yesterday. We're talking tomorrow, and we're talking a proposal. So I think that if you own an asset worth multiple millions of dollars, I think you do it yourself at least once, because then and you will have a familiarity, and you will know what to expect from a broker that you want to hire. And then you can require the broker to do certain things. Like when you interview 5 brokers, I expect you to prospect and canvass, and I want a report every week until I feel comfortable that you're doing it. And those brokers can say, I'm too busy, not interested, right? But I also think that if you don't do it yourself, you don't know what to, what does Peter Drucker say? What you don't measure doesn't get improved. And if you don't know personally how to walk into a strange office and say, I've got office space, are you interested in leasing any? Then you don't know what the brokers have to go through. So I think, that's what I recommend to all the people that call me. Go do it yourself for a few days, and then they'll know how hard it is. And then interview as many brokers as you can, and see, hopefully you get some young, Turk that says, I'll do that. And then that's the guy you hire.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, and to put this into perspective, that prospective office tenant that you're negotiating with right now, what is like the yearly economic value they're going to bring to the building you might be bringing them into, in terms of gross rents?
So 5,000 square feet, probably they'll pay 12, so 60,000. So at a 10 cap, 600,000 of value. Yeah,
so $600,000 from knocking on, several doors to get several no's, but to get 600,000.
60 doors. I knocked on, that was my 60th door in 3 days.
So how many thousands per door is that?
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
I think it's my wife's a math teacher, so she'd kill me for this, but I think that's 60,000 a door, right?
Well, I just talked to a big group of brokers, and one of the questions was, you own 5 shopping centers. They're valued at $80 million. You're telling me you canvass for your 1,175 square foot former Batteries and Plus space. And I said, yes, let me explain this to you. It's 1,175. I'm going to get $50 a square foot. That's $600,000 of value. And if it takes me 20 hours, and, I can canvass 3 people an hour, so 60 people, and I make 600, I will take those odds, and I will get my butt out there and knock on doors for an 1,175 square foot space.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's so inspiring. I mean, one of the things that I'm thinking about is, like, as I've researched you, is like, when we find that, because I'm doing all the leasing on my own, and we're thinking about, like, we have enough where we kind of need to, like, get help here, right? Is I think it might be a prerequisite of whoever we hire to for us to pay for your program.
Bring them down.
Yeah.
And I think I'm a big believer. I mean, I love brokerage firms. I love brokers. I was a broker, but I think that depending on what your portfolio is and what it encompasses, having someone in-house is, that's how I grew the former company. That's how we grew. I hired kids out of college. I trained them. I hired realtors. I trained them. And that's why I have this side business now, because I did it for 18 years. I think that you can we had Terra Nova Tuesday, where every Tuesday, everyone went canvassing, and that was every week. Once or twice a month, the president would go with them, because I liked it. But you know who else liked it a lot more? My clients. They loved to hear that I was out canvassing with my team of 14 on one asset, that we spread, we had teams of 7 teams of 2, and we had competitions, and we did that every week. And our occupancy was so high.
That is awesomely, amazingly good. I mean, that's just amazing. So, well, we're butting up against our live Q&A session, Beth. So I just want to thank you for tuning in, everybody. If you want to get in on the live Q&A, make sure to join the Go Big Live Real Estate Investors Group to ask your questions directly to our amazing guests like Beth and get a ton of tactical value and knowledge out of it. So for now, we are signing out. See you later.